Hello and welcome back to this episode of the Engage 8 podcast. I am Josh with my co-host Mike. Today we have a ton to cover, starting with college football week 6 recap. Then we're going to move into talking about the Monday Night Football game from last night with the Chiefs and the Saints. And then we're going to finish off the pod by previewing week 6 of the NFL season. We're going to go game by game of the 14 games we have, give our predictions and our thoughts on each game individually. But first, Mike, do you want to get us started with some college football?
Yes, I will get us started with some college football. First game here, UNLV versus Syracuse. Big game here. Both teams having a solid start to the season and a very good game, 44-41. A big touchdown late from Kyle McCord gets Syracuse the, I guess you can say, upset win over a ranked UNLV team. Both teams are very good. I think I'd expect Syracuse to possibly be ranked going into the next AP poll. McCord was phenomenal in this game, 355 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick at 63 pass attempts. Just a lot of pass attempts. He's really shown that he is a solid quarterback. There's a lot of issues with him at Ohio State. People thought maybe he wasn't very good, but he's showing right now that he is a solid quarterback. Next game, the big upset of the week, Alabama and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt proves that they're a tough place to play, and they play some SEC ball there. They get the upset win on Alabama 1 week after Alabama gets the huge win against Georgia to become the number 1 team in the country. Jalen Miller passed the ball well, 310 yards in the air. Just really the defense for Alabama let them down in this one, giving Vanderbilt 40 points, um, 252 passing yards, 166 rushing yards on the ground. Vanderbilt just scored the ball very well. Miller did throw an interception. They couldn't get their run game going how we would expect Alabama to have 84 rushing yards total, only 11 carries from their top 2 running backs. Just a disappointing loss if you're Alabama. This is a team that you should absolutely kind of smoke. I think Vanderbilt's a solid team, but they're nowhere near the talent level of Bama or how much resources that Alabama has. But they get the upset win. They get to storm the field. The new thing after beating Bama is just tearing down the goalpost and bringing them to whatever river is most near. And that's what Vanderbilt did in this game. And they pull off a huge, huge upset victory. Next game, a game that was very close to being an upset in the Woke versus Coke game Saturday night, Miami versus Cal. Cal has a huge lead in this game. I want to say they were up 38-10 at some point. Um, 35-10. It looks like they're up 35-10, and Miami just doesn't really give up. Cam Ward stays solid in the game, and they somehow are able to come back late. Couple iffy penalty calls. I thought 100% it was a legal man downfield on Miami's touchdown play, but they refs don't throw the flag. They get the touchdown. Cal can't go down the field. There was a questionable targeting, but refs don't throw the flag, and Miami escapes back-to-back weeks. The week before it was the Hail Mary where it was ruled a catch on the field, and it really wasn't. But they got that one overturned, and here they get the 39-38 victory in a game that I think they should have just lost, considering they were down 35-10. But they come back, get the win. Big win for them, keeps them undefeated. A lot of momentum now after a win like that, I'd hope, going into next week. Next game, SEC game, Texas A&M versus Missouri. Two top 25 teams, Texas A&M 25, Missouri number 9. And Texas A&M home game for them at Kyle Field. They just absolutely dominate this game. Brady Cook couldn't do much on this Texas A&M defense. He has 186 passing yards. They couldn't run the ball at all. And Texas A&M really just put their foot on their throat and didn't stop. They ran for 236 yards, passed for 276. Just a dominating performance. And Texas A&M is crawling back into the hunt now. They're up to 5-1, and now they have a win against a top 10 team. So that is very big for them. One more game here, Washington versus Michigan, a college football playoff championship rematch. Washington gets their revenge on Michigan late. They were down. They come back, get a couple touchdowns late, and win the game. Michigan, again, just cannot pass the football. They don't have a quarterback that really is competent passing wise. Jack Tuttle comes in. I think he's like a 6-year senior. He's also unable to get past 100 yards. Orgy only has 15 yards. He got pulled early. They were able to run the ball a little bit, 174 yards on the ground, but really they're just so one-dimensional that you know what they're going to do, and it's really just not. It's not going to sustain throughout the year. And Washington was able to get it done here. Will Rogers was solid, 271 passing yards for him. They ran the ball decent. Just a big win for Washington to kind of get their revenge there, and a Big Ten matchup as well. And then really quickly, Boise State again gets a big win, 62-30. Ashton Genty continues to be maybe the Heisman frontrunner. He is, in my opinion. He only plays the first half of this game, 13 carries, 186 yards. That's 14.3 yards per carry. He has 3 touchdowns. I think he had a 75-yard touchdown run, a 60-yard touchdown run. He's just a different talent. I've really never seen anything like this. He's incredible.
Yeah. A lot of interesting college football this weekend. You started with the Syracuse game. Syracuse looked great towards the end of that game. That was kind of a game of runs. They went out early in that one, and they looked like they were going to possibly dominate this game against a UNLV team who is on their second game post NIL controversy. But UNLV comes back. They make a huge run, and then Syracuse makes a huge run in the third. Teams end up going into overtime, and Syracuse gets it done. McCord gets his team to 4-1. They are not ranked though. They actually only have 6 AP votes this week.
Really?
So,
Wow.
so yeah, I guess they're when you look at. I mean, we'll get to the rankings later, but yeah, that was a great game, possibly game of the week there. You mentioned it, Vandy beating Alabama. Vandy has looked like a scrappy team all year. They opened the season beating a team in VTech who I think actually will end up being a solid team this year. They inexplicably lose to Georgia State, and then they go into Mizzou, lose that game in overtime against Mizzou, and then play Alabama at home and knock off the #1 team in the country. So and this is a game that Vandy went up early and Bama had to play comeback. It's not like Vandy pulled off a miraculous comeback. They played better for the majority of that game and got themselves a win. Another top 5 team loses in Tennessee at Arkansas. There's a lot of scrappy teams in the SEC that I think are going to cause some losses. It's the Arkansas, the Kentuckys, and what I thought going into this game or going into this week, I thought the another team in that group was South Carolina. That's a very dangerous team that plays really good defense, but they do struggle at times on offense, and we saw that this week. Very impressive to see Ole Miss coming off of a bad loss at home to Kentucky, being able to go into South Carolina and getting a dominant win in a game they led from basically the jump and never really let up. Very, very convincing there from Ole Miss. I think, like I said, I think those it's you can lose in the 12-team era to a conference team that plays scrappy against some teams. You can lose to a Kentucky, you can lose to a South Carolina, you can lose to an Arkansas. You just can't do it multiple times. And Ole Miss knew they had to go into South Carolina, and they went from a game that this wasn't maybe a must win before that Kentucky loss, but after the Kentucky loss, it was absolutely a must win. And Dart and company were able to get that win. You mentioned it with Washington getting their first statement Big Ten win of their tenure here now in the Big Ten. They beat Michigan, a team that we had a lot of question marks about. You mentioned Orgy did get pulled early in that game. Big win for Washington. I honestly was a little bit shocked to see how that game was playing out in the beginning of the second half when Michigan took a lead. It kind of seemed early on that Washington might just get it and run with it in this one. But Michigan was able to come back, which I think was actually a good sign for them. They were, I believe, underdogs going into this game or slight favorites. It was very, very close, especially for playing all the way in Washington. So I don't really hold this loss that much against Michigan. I don't view them any better or worse than I viewed them before. Miami and Cal, like you said, Miami gets that huge comeback win. They were completely dead in the water, similar to Virginia Tech last week when they came back and won that one. Cam Ward probably I mean, he's had some struggles. We've seen it. He's also been amazing at times, and this could definitely go down as being his Heisman moment. If Ashton Genty can't keep this up for the rest of the year, he gets hurt or something, this could definitely be something we look at as a Heisman moment for Cam Ward. We see Georgia bounce back against Auburn. I don't think Auburn is a very good team, but they have some veterans on that team, and Georgia coming off a bad loss against Alabama, or I shouldn't say a bad loss, but coming off of a loss against Alabama the week prior, it was very easy to see they could have let off the gas here against Auburn. They didn't do that. We also see USC go into Minnesota and they can't get a win in Minnesota, dropping USC now down to 1-2 in the Big Ten. 2 away games though at Minnesota, at Michigan. But regardless, Michigan plays tough, hard-nosed Big Ten football, and the USC is really starting to feel that now. We're starting to see some of these teams in the Big Ten that have moved from the West Coast. We're starting to see them struggle a little bit with the physicality. We're seeing it a little bit with USC. We've been seeing it all year with UCLA, and then Georgia's or not Georgia, Oregon has been solid, and Washington obviously got the win this week against Michigan. But moving on here, Iowa State convincing win against a good Baylor team. I think that was very impressive to see from them. Clemson takes care of business in Florida State. We also see a team that is newly ranked now in SMU, who may be one of the most dangerous offenses in the country, or an offense that people aren't really talking about. People are already forgetting when they put up like 70 on TCU a couple weeks ago, and they're sitting in a conference in the ACC where we talked about the weakness of the ACC versus the Big 12 last year or last pod when we talked about college football, so 2 pods ago, I guess. But SMU is a dangerous team. They're a dangerous offense, and I do think Louisville is a solid team. Louisville lost to in Notre Dame last week in a close game, and then they unfortunately for them lose at home here and drop out of the poll. And we see SMU make their way into the poll at 25. And then the last game I want to mention here, we see Indiana move to 6-0. They were the first team in college football this year to become bowl eligible as they get a win at Northwestern. This was kind of a close game for a while. Indiana pulled away a little bit late in this one, but they really completely look like a brand new team. And they are now sitting at number 18 in the three-way tie for number 18 in the new AP poll. So crazy to see. They're one of the, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 undefeated teams in the AP top 25 right now, and Indiana's one of them.
Yeah, and speaking of the new top 25 poll, we've talked all year about how really the SEC has pretty much been dominating the top 25 poll, but right now the Big Ten has kind of started to take a little bit of control. We see SEC with the number one team in Texas, but at 2, 3, and 4, all Big Ten teams with Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State. Then we go back to Georgia at 5 and Alabama at 7, which I get Alabama falling below Georgia, but I don't get it. I feel like they beat Georgia. They should still be ahead of them. Their one loss is kind of just you're coming off of a massive win and maybe you just overlooked a team. But interesting there. Tennessee only falls to 8 after their loss. Another kind of interesting one. But at the back end of the top 10, you got Alabama, Tennessee, Ole Miss. Those are 3 more SEC teams. The Big Ten and the SEC just continue to dominate it overall. Boise State jumps up 4 spots to 17. Texas A&M finds themselves jumping 10 spots all the way to 15. Good for them. Michigan somehow stays in the top 25 poll. They're the only 2-loss team in the top 25 poll at 24. Like you said, SMU, they get in at 25. Good for them. First team out is USC with 98 votes. And we see Nebraska with 51. Good for them. Colorado actually has 3 votes for the top 25. And then the armed forces, Navy has 43, Army has 33. It's only a matter of time.
I mean, are we gonna do this dance again? I mean, we've been talking about it there. It's mainstream media is picking up on this
Yes.
opportunity here with Army Navy, so it's definitely gonna happen. I wanted to talk about a point that you made though about how the poll is switching. So that was the first thing I noticed too when I saw this new poll. Is I'm like, oh, 2 through 4 is Big Ten now. But then I go and I look at it, and I'm looking at some of the bottom teams in the Big Ten versus some of the bottom teams in the SEC. And when you can play teams like UCLA, Purdue, Northwestern, Maryland, and I'm sorry, Michigan State versus the bottom teams in
We're
the
not that
SEC,
bad.
which is South Carolina, Kentucky, great defenses. Auburn is a veteran team. You have Oklahoma at more than halfway to the bottom. You have Alabama more than halfway to the bottom. It's a it's a lot easier to get to the top of the poll and stay there when you have a conference that has a ton of top heavy, really good teams and a bunch of shitty teams that get beat up on every week. That's why you saw the SEC stay at the top when they were playing against non-conference because they could beat the hell out of all those teams. But you have Bama and Georgia have to play in week 5, and then immediately the team that wins that game gets upset by a team who's honestly pretty scrappy in Vandy, who I think can beat a lot of these good teams. Now it's like, okay, now they're both have 1 loss, and you have all these teams in the Big Ten that are undefeated. But regardless, I still do think the SEC is a better conference right now. I think that'd be pretty tough to argue just based on the bottom half.
I mean, based on the bottom half, I mean, maybe, yeah, but I think still in the middle of the Big Ten, it's still very solid. You got Iowa's a solid team, Nebraska, Northwestern's solid enough. But I mean, Ohio State's schedule going forward is going to be very tough. They have obviously the big game this week against Oregon, number 2 versus number 3, massive game. Then they got Nebraska, tough game. Then they have to go to Penn State. So they go to Oregon and to Penn State in 3 weeks. That's rough. And then they finish off their season with 2 home games against IU and Michigan. Those are 2 solid teams they should beat. That's just Ohio State, though. Oregon, what does Oregon's schedule look
Ohio
like
State's
going
going to
forward?
beat the fucking brakes off Michigan this year.
I really hope
They
so.
are going to beat the brakes off Michigan.
Oregon has actually a pretty easy schedule overall. They have Illinois, that's a tough one, and then at Michigan. I think they should win both of those, though. And after that, they really don't have much. Washington, Wisconsin, Maryland, Purdue. So if Oregon could beat this Ohio State team this week, which I'm leaning towards Ohio State winning. Oregon could find themselves just finishing the season undefeated going into a Big Ten championship if they're somehow able to pull it off against Ohio State.
Well, that's my whole point is that you have the opportunity to have maybe not all the top teams are going to have easy schedules, but when you have enough bad teams in your conference, one of them is going to have it easier off. Nobody in the SEC has it easier off than somebody else. There's one Mississippi State is a bad team. There's no other bad teams in the SEC outside of Mississippi State.
I mean, I wouldn't say like Maryland or Wisconsin are bad teams. I think they're
No,
solid
I don't think they
teams.
are
It's
either. But
just
Northwestern, Purdue, and UCLA are bad.
I don't think
Purdue and UCLA for
Northwestern's
sure.
that bad.
I don't know. I mean, I look at the SEC versus the ACC top to bottom, and I don't know. I think it's a little bit easier off for some of those teams, but they are going to eventually eat themselves alive. Like you said, they play each other, and we haven't seen Texas be tested yet. But they also have only played one SEC game this year, and they play a Red River rivalry on
This week.
Saturday. So that should be entertaining. Let me see if there's anything else to talk about here with the new AP poll before we move on.
I'm upset they moved the Red River game time though. It used to always be like 11 a.m. Big noon kickoff. Now
What is
I
it
think it's
now?
at 3:30.
Really? I
That's an
didn't know it was at
afternoon game
3:30.
now. Or maybe
Yeah, that
3:30 Eastern, so
Yeah, but still, it's second slate. We see Michigan drop to 24 in the poll with 2 losses. They are really holding on to Michigan, huh?
they
They don't
are.
want to let they do not want to let Michigan out of the poll. We see Missouri drop to 12. That's dramatic or drop 12 spots to 21. That's a little dramatic in my
Was
opinion.
a rough loss, but yeah, I think Texas A&M's a great team,
It's a
so
rough loss, but I think A&M is a good team too. I really do.
I
I
do
mean,
too.
their one loss is a really close home loss to Notre Dame, who is looking like they're going to be a good team. Something I don't know if I've ever seen in AP poll voting, a three-way tie.
Yeah, I know. 318 teams is
Maybe we've seen
absurd.
it for 25, but for 18 is weird.
Yeah,
And we have another tie too with Iowa State and Notre Dame, but LSU is also quietly working their way up. Same thing with A&M. My BYU up to 14.
they're good.
That's a dangerous team, but yeah, I think that's about all I got. And Clemson, after an extremely brutal start to the year, has been great, especially offensively. They've been phenomenal. So I think that could be another good team. ACC is really top heavy too.
Mhm.
But that is about all I've got on the college football front. If you're ready to move on to Monday night.
Yeah, that's all I had for college football. But one quick thing, just a question out of the blue here. Did you know that the NHL started tonight?
Yeah, no, I've been thinking. I was literally thinking about it while you were talking. The last time you were talking,
I, I
Hawks got Utah tonight at
yeah,
10.
we play Utah tonight.
Yeah, no,
I was checking my ESPN app and I saw that they actually were showing the Hawks game. I was
I
kind of in
know.
shock.
And we're heavy underdogs to a brand new team. I know it's Arizona, but still.
Putting us on the road again to start the season in a
Yeah, I know. I think we start like
first
three
time.
or four games on the row again. It is what it is, bro. It is
Yeah.
what it is. I'm excited though. Bedsy scoring tonight. Betting a
Yeah.
Bedsy goal every game until he scores for sure.
They're saying goal
But
and assist tonight. That's what the streets are saying.
they're saying goal and assist.
Yeah.
I like that. They're saying he's going to lead the NHL in points after tonight. That's what they're saying. But moving on here to Monday Night Football, the recap. Chiefs beat the Saints 26-13. And you said it when we were watching this game that the Saints magic might be drifting away a little bit as they've lost 3 games in a row now. Mahomes had probably his best passing game so far of the year. He didn't get in the end zone and he did still throw a pick. I think he's up to 6 interceptions on the year, but we've kind of seen that from him just the past 2 seasons in the regular season, but he still puts up 331 yards. We see Kareem Hunt fully getting himself on the scene. He is RB1 in Kansas City now. Carson Steele, you know, it's a the NFL is a brutal league, man. You could be the guy ready to get a spot, everybody in front of you gets hurt, and if you go out there and fumble on your first three carries, it might just be a wrap. And that's just the league we are in right now. And Kareem Hunt knows the system. He gets 27 carries in this game. If you were somebody like me who picked up Kareem Hunt in any of your leagues, 27 carries is so good to see. And he even gets in the end zone. He also gets a catch for 15 yards as well, which was huge. We see Juju Smith Schuster get 7 catches for 130 yards on 8 targets. Travis Kelce is officially back. I think Travis Kelce is going to continue to have a great season from here on out now. He needs to start finding the end zone, but it's fine. You could tell they're making it an effort to get the ball to him. They said that they were doing that in the first 3 games and they weren't really able to, and now they are for sure doing it. You're seeing them almost force it to him, and they're getting the ball to him whenever they want to. And for the Saints, it was just we've seen the Saints play. This is the first Saints primetime game we've had to, I believe, right? I don't think they've
Um,
played in primetime.
I don't believe so. No.
To my knowledge, I don't think they
Or
have.
did they? Was that Saints game prime time?
I was talking about the
Or I mean the
Saints.
Eagles. Was the Eagles game prime time?
No, that was noon. But
Yeah, you're
they
right. It was.
all of for my point is all their games have been going on when there's another game on. So I haven't been able to fully lock in and watch the Saints. And to me personally, it seemed every single time a pass rusher got free, Carr back foot, toss it up every time, no matter what. It was like he was terrified to get hit. I know that's Derek Carr, but it seemed like almost extreme last night. He was 18 for 28, 165, 2 touchdowns. But the main story here is the Saints just were not able to run the ball at all. They've been able to run it with Kamara for the most part this season, and that's really helped their offense get going. And they just were not able to do that here. And you see them in a game where were they in it technically for most of it? Yes, but it kind of always felt like it was a little bit too far off for them. You see the Chiefs double them in yards in this one, like triple or quadruple them in rushing yards. It was just a bad look for them. You see the Chiefs are able to when you can run the ball 27 times with Kareem Hunt and you can control the clock, you can get yourself to what they're sitting at, which is damn near 40 minutes of control time, and the Saints only get 20, which carried them to this win here. And the Chiefs joined the Vikings as the two 5-0 teams. The Chiefs are just gonna they're gonna just find ways to win no matter what, and this was probably their most convincing win yet.
Yeah, this was easily their most convincing win yet. Their defense was able to just kind of shut down the Saints offense that really has lost its flair after the first 2 weeks where they were putting up 50 plus points and looking like just a generational offense. Disappointing from the Saints just offense in general. Only 46 rushing yards is something that you can't have. You have to be able to run the ball better than that. They have been all season. They've been solid running the ball, but here they don't get it done. Derek Carr, like you said, just was unable to handle any pressure really put on him by the Chiefs defense at all. If Chris Jones would get through, Carr wouldn't have much to do to throw the ball. Olave has a very quiet game, only 2 catches for 10 yards. Couldn't get the ball to his top weapon there. Kamara has 6 catches, but the Chiefs just pretty much dominated. Saints defense wasn't as good as I expected them to be either. The Chiefs were able to move the ball pretty much however they wanted. Saints got a goal line interception by Saunders in the middle of them talking about him and his family, which was pretty cool. And then he gets the ball and decides with no hesitation at all to go down. He decides to take that ball out and run. And that's
Mm-hmm.
one thing I love about big guys when they get the football. There's no hesitation. They're getting that ball and going. And
Yeah.
that's what he did. And he got, I think, up to about the 35, which was very impressive. I would have loved to see him just like actually get a chance to continue running. If there was like no Saint, no Chiefs guys in front of him, and he's just see how far he would go before completely gassing out and maybe just collapsing 50 yards down the field. But that was a cool thing to see. But the Saints, the offense struggles. Derek Carr does get hurt. As I feel like every time he has a bad game, and almost he just somehow always picks up rib injuries. He's always holding his ribs. So disappointing loss for the Saints. You want to at least stay in the game, really compete. They don't do that here. The Chiefs just run the ball very well with Hunt. Passed the ball very well with Mahomes, one of his better yardage games so far this year with 331 passing yards. And Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, an offensive quad of Mahomes, Hunt, Schuster, and Kelsey. What year is it?
Yeah, honestly, it's crazy though, and they look good. Kareem Hunt looks healthy, young, and
Yeah.
We saw him. I mean, people maybe people just don't remember, but he wasn't just like good. Like he was amazing in
Hmm.
that those 2 years in the Chiefs. Like I'll never forget his first game against the Patriots on that Thursday night
Oh yeah,
football game when he just arrived. I think the Pats still won that one, but
yeah. The Pats won that game. I just remember the hurdle by him as well.
yeah, down the left
He
sideline,
was
yeah,
electric.
he was, and he may still be, but I believe I'm ready to get into the preview if you are.
I am as well.
All right, week 6 of the NFL. Starting with the buys, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, the Minnesota Vikings, the LA Rams, and the Miami Dolphins. I'll just say a quick thing about each team before I get to the actual preview of the first game on Thursday Night Football. But starting with the Kansas City Chiefs, they don't really have too many injuries that they're going to be able to benefit from this buy from. I mean, we found out the Rashi Rice stuff on today or yesterday. I forget what it was. They're
Yesterday.
being very weird.
I've never seen anything like it.
It's really weird. Like you see a report that's like he's probably done for the year, but like or he's completely done. They still haven't put him on IR, have they?
They put him on IR, yeah.
Oh, okay. But yeah, that's really random. I don't think the Chiefs have that many injuries that they're going to be able to solve. The Vikings, this is a huge bye week for them. They're of course coming from London, so that's huge. But they have the biggest game for them of the year. Maybe will continue to be the biggest game of the year as they host the Detroit Lions in week 7. So they absolutely need this week 6 bye. The Rams, we can't even understate how important this bye is to them. Couldn't have come at a better time, honestly. Maybe last week would have been a better time. But and then the Miami Dolphins. We know they are full of injuries as well. Tyree's been banged up all year. He gets a week of rest, and then we'll see what goes on with Tua. But you got anything else to say about the buys?
I mean, I said it on the recap. Perfect week for the Rams to get the bye to hopefully get back at least Cooper Cup, maybe Nakua. I would probably doubt that. The Chiefs and the Vikings, maybe this is a time you almost don't want to buy considering how well you're playing, but I guess you'll take it with just any of the little injuries you have. And for the Dolphins, you just need to try to get Huntley situated with the offense. Maybe see how long it takes to get Tua back. I don't know. They're just in a interesting position.
Yes, they are. But moving on to Thursday night football here, an NFC West matchup in Lumen Field with the 49ers taking on the Seahawks. Huge game for both teams here. 49ers are getting yards, but they're really struggling to find the end zone when they get into the red zone. They have a 40.91 red zone percentage right now. That's the fourth worst in football. Could you guess what those other three teams are in that red zone percentage? Unless you already know.
Well, there was one team I talked about it. It has to be there's one
There's
team
two
I know for
two
sure.
obvious ones and kind of a surprise.
The Rams.
No,
Oh, I thought the Rams
they're
were
all AFC. All three are AFC.
really three AFC teams.
The NFC is better than the AFC this year.
Jags,
Nope.
Browns. Have the Browns been in the red zone enough to be
Nope,
considered?
they
No.
haven't. They have not.
Titans. Man, are two of them good teams?
One of them is a good team.
One
One
of
of
them's
them
a good
has a
team.
bad injury that's keeping them from being good, and one of them is bad. Not to
Broncos.
give no,
I just consider Broncos as
Broncos
their
are good.
offense.
I'll
Well, I know I wouldn't consider the Broncos a good team,
give you
but
one more guess if you don't get it.
Bengals.
No, okay, it's New England,
Oh,
Miami,
okay.
and Kansas City
Oh, I was thinking too
are
deeply then. I was
are
thinking too
the
deeply.
yeah. I mean, Kansas City's great. That's the whole point of that. But that was
Yeah,
wild. Kansas City and San Francisco both in the bottom four in red zone percentage through 5 weeks. Wild.
makes
But
sense, I guess.
that's where we sit. One of those teams is 2-3. One of them is 5-0. So I guess it doesn't really matter for Kansas City. But Seahawks offense has been good against most teams. They were not great last week against the Giants, but the Giants defense is scrappy. They weren't phenomenal against the Broncos, but they were solid against a solid defense there. It's crazy, but I kind of almost trust the Giants defense over the 49ers defense at this current moment, especially with Hargrave out for the Niners. Seattle is a really, really tough place to play. I know they just got beat by the Giants in Seattle last week, but it's a tough place to play. San Francisco is 3-10 in their last 13 games in Lumen Field. I'm gonna take the Seahawks and the points here on Thursday Night Football at plus 3.5.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, the Niners, if they could just sustain a lead in the fourth quarter, they would be very good against the spread and have a better record overall. But two double-digit leads blown in the fourth quarter already this year, one against the Rams and then one here against the Seahawks. Every other team in the NFL has only had blown two double-digit leads in the fourth quarter this year, so four total. Two have been by the Niners. I also have on here that their red zone offense has been terrible. They're only scoring on 40.9% of their red zone opportunities, 30th in the NFL. But their offense still has been good. They're second in total yards, and they have been very, very good against the Seahawks team. They've won five straight against the Seahawks, averaging 15 by an average of 15.2 points per game. Seahawks, after a great start again, they've seemed to kind of fizzle out a little bit. They did have to play the Lions, which was a tough matchup, and then the Giants, which is a just a gritty team. Those first 3 weeks they were able to play the Patriots and the Dolphins with no Tua and the Broncos who were banged up. They need to get their run game going. We didn't see them do that last week, and their offense really struggled, putting all the pressure on Geno Smith. Just has to keep not turning the ball over. Um, their D line needs to affect Brock Purdy if they really want a chance in this game, in my opinion. And I just don't see that happening. I'm going to go with Niners minus 3.5.
Okay, moving on here to the
Another
London game. What?
another Thursday night football where we're opposite.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that pattern. So 5 weeks running now or 6 weeks running now.
6 weeks.
That's crazy. But
And does that make
moving
you
on,
6-0 and me 0-6? Or no, I
I'm
won
not
some.
I'm
I
not
won
six
some.
and
I won
zero.
some.
You won the Dolphins Bills.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say I won some.
Yeah. I'm I am currently sitting at 5-1 on my personal bets though on Thursday Night Football this year. But I've
Wow.
historically always been great on Thursday night. It's everything else that is a question mark. But um moving on here to Jags at Bears, the London game. Jags offense has only been good so far against Indy. I don't think they're going to be too successful against the Bears secondary that really hasn't been giving up much. They're definitely going to have to establish the run with whoever it is, whether it's Bigsby or ETN. Bears just have not been great at stopping the run this year, which is truly kind of baffling to me. That was probably the strongest part of their entire team last year. And they go into this year with a new quarterback, new offensive coordinator, new hopes for the season, even as a whole. And their most reliable unit has not been as effective as it was at the end of last year. But the Jags secondary has been very inconsistent, but so has Caleb Williams for the Bears. So it's a pretty hard thing to predict of which is going to give there because you don't know what you're going to get from multiple units on both sides. You don't know what you're going to get from the Jags offense. You definitely don't know what you're going to get from their defense. On the Bears side, you know they're going to have a good pass defense, and you don't really know about their run defense, and you sure as hell don't know about anything on them offensively. So this, I think, is maybe the hardest game to predict of the entire week this week. Although they have looked good at times, I think we see Caleb have another good week offensively in London. I think he takes advantage of this Jaguars secondary, but like I said, the Jag secondary is going to have random good games. This is 2 years running now that this Jag secondary is unpredictable. Ugh, I'm gonna take the Bears. I'm gonna take the Bears minus 2.5. I don't love it though at all. I know I said yesterday when we recorded that I was taking the Jags, but
Yeah.
that's how it is, bro.
This one is actually pretty easy for me. Watching both teams pretty closely last week, I just don't like this Jags secondary at all. I don't think they're good. And overall, Trevor Lawrence, after watching the Colts through 5 weeks, their Colts secondary has just been atrocious. The only time the Colts secondary looks good was really week one and maybe week two. Or not even not week one, but basically just week two against the Packers almost. But that's simply because all the Packers had to do was run the football. We didn't see them throw the ball at all, so it didn't really matter. Um, I think that the Bears secondary is going to clamp down on these Jags receivers and Jags team as a whole. Brian Thomas has been very good. He had a phenomenal week last week, but the Colts are the worst team in the NFL against outside receivers, and that's what Brian Thomas is. I think the Bears are going to clamp down on the Jags offense, make Trevor Lawrence again look like he's not at that point. I mean, last week was his best week of football that he's played in a long time. Bigsby was great last week. If the Bears can just slow him down enough, I think they should win pretty easily. Caleb Williams can throw against this secondary. He had a good week last week. He needs to just continue that. Gets a chance against the secondary. The Jags pass rush has been solid, so if they get to Caleb Williams and make him flustered with Trayvon Walker off the edge and Josh Hines Allen, I should say, they can fluster him and throw him off a little bit, but I like the Bears in this one easily, minus 2.5. It's in London, but the Jags have two London games. We know they're going to win one of them probably. I don't think that's this week, so I'm going to go Bears minus 2.5.
Okay, moving on to another game that we kind of talked about the line in our last episode. Commanders at Ravens. Kind of an absurd line in this one, like we said. Despite the lack of secondary talent, Washington's run defense has actually been worse than their pass defense to start the year. I am just so confident at this moment in the Ravens offense. I believe that they can do really whatever they want to do. They found a way to establish the run those first couple weeks with Derrick Henry. It was kind of some growing pains. They didn't truly know how they were going to be able to utilize him to their best ability. They figured that out in this past three, and they have been dominant. Washington has the fourth worst red zone defense in the NFL right now. The Ravens have the second best red zone offense. If the Ravens are getting inside the 20 in this game, they're most likely going to score. We do also have the two leading rushing teams in the NFL right now. But on the flip side, the Ravens have the best run defense in the NFL right now. So the Commanders are probably going to struggle to run the ball and continue to beat teams up that way. It's going to force a rookie quarterback to make a lot of throws. And although he's playing against a young secondary, it's tough to play in Baltimore. And they have a lot of pieces that aren't young that are very effective when you're talking about Roquan, when you're talking about Kyle Hamilton. Well, Kyle Hamilton is young, but he's very effective at this point in his career. I think this is going to be a very good game. I think the Ravens' style of play will be very tough for this Commanders defense, though. And like I said on the last episode, this line being so crazy makes me think that the Ravens might just go out there and blow them out. So I gotta kind of play what I think Vegas is thinking here, and I'm gonna rock with the Ravens minus 6.5.
Yeah, I see the money line is obviously really favoring the Ravens, but uh 73% of the bets on the spread have gone to the Commanders, which is kind of what I was
Of course,
expecting
yeah.
with that big of a spread. Commanders have been one of the better teams in the NFL so far this season, and with a rookie quarterback, 4-1, he's playing like a veteran. But you look at their four wins, they have come against teams with a total record of 6-14, which isn't as good. And their defense, while it has had a better 2 weeks, I think this Browns offense might just be that terrible. Last week, they've given up 5.1 yards per carry so far this season, and you're going against the Ravens with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. They're going to run the football, and if they're getting the average for the Commanders so far, 5.1 yards per carry. The Ravens are going to absolutely destroy you. They're going to control the clock, control the ball. They're going to keep Daniels off the field. Um, and I think that they're just going to dominate this game from the beginning to the end. They're averaging 211 yards per game running the football. And there's a 0% chance that I would ever bet against Lamar Jackson playing against the NFC right now. He's 21-1 against the NFC. Ravens minus 6.5.
Yeah, it's tough to use that stat when it's such a big spread because he could easily just beat him by three, but
Yeah.
still, like he dominates them. So I no question in my mind as juicy as that Commanders plus 6.5 looks.
Yeah.
Vegas knows that the hype where the hype is. They're
They
gonna
do. I
try
mean,
to play it up.
you said it last week and you thought it was a trap with the Browns. And you thought you were going to play off the hype, and it
Moving
didn't
on here to
happen.
Texans at Patriots. Houston currently sits as the best passing team in the
I'm gonna make
NFL.
fun of you for picking the Browns as much as possible.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see. The Houston currently sits as the best passing team in the NFL at the moment. Despite having some good defensive moments throughout the season, New England is actually 25th in pass defense. I thought they were going to be higher in overall defense because they have played some teams well and they played some shitty offensive teams too, but they still have not been phenomenal. Houston secondary, despite being young, has had a great start to the year. I think Brissett's going to struggle as far as the pass defense for New England again too. Once again, not going to get into it, but they're not going to have Jabril Peppers for sure. Hopefully, nobody has Jabril Peppers for a long time, but New England has ran it pretty well. Houston's biggest hole on their entire team right now is probably their run defense. So I think New England has a chance to run the ball well, control the clock in this game, and make it a close game. The Texans also have let some inferior teams play them close. And that makes me think that the Pats are going to be able to play them close in this one, especially because it's in Foxborough. But I also think that this is a pretty good matchup for the Texans. So yeah, I'm gonna take the Texans minus 7. There's another one I'm back and forth on too, though.
Yeah, this is the first one that I've really had conflict in picking. Texans defense looked so good last week against the Bills, and Josh Allen absolutely shut him down. One of the worst games of his career. The one thing that does concern me with the Texans is I think their offense will still do phenomenal against this Patriots team. Is I am worried about Nico Collins not playing. We've seen CJ Stroud struggle a little bit without Nico Collins. I think if Nico Collins plays, this spread would be pretty easy for the Texans to cover. But I think that their offense could slow down just a little bit with him out. They could put Christian Gonzalez on someone like Stephon Diggs, or maybe we finally are able to see Tank Dell kind of break out. He hasn't done much this season. Patriots had a nice start to the season against the Bengals, but ever since they've really struggled offensively and defensively. Their defense has struggled to stop the pass, which is not good against a team like the Texans here. Not what you want to see. Their offense has been very bad in the recent games. Jacoby hasn't looked good, but they are probably content as an organization with losing and just continue to get that draft pick looking better. I do feel like they might be due for a solid game though. Um, I have I have rode the Patriots a lot recently. I'm gonna switch that up though, and I'm gonna go Texans -7. I think I've lost maybe three Patriots bets in a row.
Yeah, you can't fall into that trap again.
Yeah, I'll
This
go
will be the game
Texans
they
minus
they
seven.
they win though, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Now that I said it, four favorites. Wow, I really switched it up.
Moving on here to a team that you love talking about, the Browns going into Philly
You
and
love
playing the
picking them.
Eagles. Yeah. Um, Browns have been disgusting so far. There's just no, I mean, I could use a million words in the dictionary for how the Browns have looked so far, and we have already announced them dead as of last Sunday. The Browns are only going to have a chance against teams that don't have a great pass rush because of how bad their offensive line is and whatever Deshaun does whenever he gets under pressure. Him and Derek Carr are just they see alignment and all hell breaks loose.
Yeah,
They do it in different ways, but
it's
all
either a
hell breaks
sack or
loose.
just an incomplete
Yeah,
pass. No in
exactly.
between.
Yeah, never a completion under pressure. But the Eagles pass rush has been semi disappointing so far this year. Their whole defense has pretty much been disappointing, especially on their linebackers and their D line, because we expected their secondary to have a slow start, but we also expected them to be able to get at the point of attack up front. They haven't been great at doing that so far. I think the secondary, like you would assume that the Browns would be able to score some points on this secondary. You would assume that, but you never really know with the Browns. Cleveland's run defense has been bad. I think Eagles are just going to thrive running the ball against this Browns team. I think the Eagles will run it a lot and control time of possession all game. And in doing that, they're going to take up a ton of clock. And I think this leads to a super low scoring game. The Eagles defense, though, just isn't good enough for them to ever be 8.5 point favorites. The Browns are dead, but dead teams can cover spreads. Give me the Browns plus 8.5. Give me the give me the
Yeah.
boys. I can't do it. I can't do it. They need to win me one. They need to win me one.
Wow, my strategy was actually I thought you were gonna go against the Browns and I was gonna pick the Browns and just kind of throw you off.
I
Um,
can't not pick them as 8.5 underdogs. I just think this is gonna be a low ass scoring game. And this is a good matchup for the Browns. It
yeah.
is. It's a good matchup for them.
Watson has not been good this year. We've talked about that basically every single week. He's just the second quarterback over the past 75 years to attempt at least 25 passes in his first 5 games without hitting 200 yards a single time. Has not been good, has not been able to handle pressure at all. Gardner Minshew right now, who's gotten benched multiple weeks in the middle of the game, has doubled the QBR of Deshaun Watson overall. Just ridiculous. And he continues to take sacks, doesn't really avoid sacks at all. It's either sack or an incompletion. He's on pace to break the sack record by 12. The Browns as a team are. They're on pace for 88. The record is 76. Just absolutely insane. Eagles should be able to move the ball on a defense, I guess, that hasn't been as good as it could be. Saquon's been elite so far this year. The Browns haven't been great against the run. And I think the Eagles are expecting to have at least A.J. Brown back, maybe Devontae Smith too. They had a week to prepare for this game. Since you decided to go with the Browns, I'll continue to go against the Browns and I'll take Eagles -7.5. Or what is it? 8.5 or 7.5? Eight and a
Eight and a
half.
half. Yeah, I don't. I definitely do not think the Browns are going to win this game though. I just think it's going to be like 24-20 or like 20-18 or some like weird low score. I just
I
don't
hope
see the
this
Eagles
is
being able to put
I
up
hope
enough
this
points.
is whatever it's called, the absolute bottom for them.
Yeah,
Rock bottom.
I
and
mean,
you
I
picked
I
him
will
again, and I can just
I
laugh.
will be tweeting the wheelchair WWE meme after if they or no, I can do either. I can do the wheelchair or the coffin if they
Oh,
can compete in
the
this game.
Undertaker coffin or
Either
the
one, yeah. I
yeah.
forgot. I couldn't remember off the top of my head who the wheelchair one is. I'm still. It
I
wasn't
think
Mick
it's
Foley,
Vince.
was it?
I think it's Vince McMahon.
Oh, it might have been Vince McMahon. It might have been Vince McMahon. It just seemed like some shit Mick Foley would do.
Yeah.
But they dropped a. Did you see they dropped a Vince McMahon docu-series on Netflix? I heard it's pretty good actually.
Yeah, I heard that. I also, while I was looking at the AP top 25 poll, I saw that he was one of the top things on AP. So something must happen again with Vince McMahon. Shocker.
Oh yeah, blown away by that. But who could have guessed it? Anyways, moving on here to Cardinals at Packers. Since Jordan Love got hurt, the Packers offense just hasn't really looked the same. They haven't looked as fluid. They looked good in week one against an Eagles secondary that isn't fantastic, but the Packers offense just hasn't really been able to truly look the same. The Cardinals run defense hasn't been great this year as a whole. They started off solid, but they haven't been great. I think the Packers will be able to get a run game going in this one. I think we're going to see some Josh Jacobs action early and often here. Green Bay has come out of the gate, and there are some elements of their game that I thought would look better at this point. I thought they'd be a better passing offense. I thought they'd be a better offense in general at this point. But their defense has been really, really good, especially in the run game. We haven't seen Green Bay have a good run defense in a long time, and they've come out so far in this year and looked good on in the run defense. The run game has been a focal point of this Cardinals offense. It's truly been night and day. The games where they can run the ball and the games where they can't. I think this is going to be one where they struggle to run it. Green Bay has looked good. Green Bay is at home in this game. Although the spread's a little bit big, I like Green Bay to bounce back in this one and give us a true dominating game that we haven't seen in a few weeks from them. And I think they cover the spread of 5 points here against Cardinals.
Yeah, 5 point spread is kind of big. Both teams like to run the football. Um, just the Cardinals struggle to stop it. The Packers can stop the run. Cardinals got a big win last week against the Niners, a win they kind of needed to have to stay alive in the playoff hunt. We saw Kyler Murray run the ball more than he has all season. He had 83 yards on the ground. He hasn't been great as a passer overall this year. He's thrown for over 200 yards just 2 of the 5 games, but he has been solid. They can stay in this game, obviously. Like I said, they've struggled to stop the run, giving up 147 yards per game this season. Jordan Love, since he's come back, 614 yards, 6 touchdowns, 4 picks in 2 games. A little more interceptions, but he continues to get better overall, and I think he will just continue to look better as the season goes on. I think they're going to run the football good again in this game, 164.8 yards per on the ground per game so far this year. I think they're going to be able to run the football better than the Cardinals. I think it's going to be a close game. But I think I'm going to have to go with Packers -5.
Have you taken all favorites so far?
Yes.
Ever, you haven't taken one dog?
No.
Interesting. All right.
To,
And
to be fair, the first three are my favorite of the week favorites wise. And
okay,
then the Texans game I was questionable on, and then the Browns game I wanted to pick the Browns as underdogs, but the fact that you did, I want to continue to go against you on the Browns.
that's fair. I mean,
And
if
this
history
game,
repeats itself,
again,
the
I'm
Eagles will
iffy
win by
on.
like 50 in this one, probably.
Yeah,
The Browns 8.5 will be dead by like the 4 minute mark of the first quarter, probably.
that's what I'm hoping for.
Something like that. I'm hoping for Saquon's 6 yard runs all day. Just long drives. Eagles 15 plays, 90 yards, 10 minutes off the clock per drive, and then the Browns drive it down field goal and just stay in the game. That's what I'm expecting from the
No, they'll
Browns.
get into field goal range, then Watson will take a sack, and they're out of field goal range.
Yeah, the Eagles will look good in the pass rush for the first time all year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hassan
but
Reddick. Oh wait, no.
no, Hassan Reddick will get traded back to the Eagles and play
Yeah.
and dominate. Yeah, maybe we'll see Jedrick Wills though in his second game back. Maybe he looks better than he did in his first game. I don't know.
Yeah, who
I'm
knows?
reaching. I'm reaching
I
out
th-
for
I
anything I
think
can
I
find
think
here, but
sacks are a part of a QB stat, and I think Watson's just a. Oh,
what?
we did just get news on Rashee Rice.
What happened?
Good news for Rashee Rice following surgery, as the ACL, meniscus, and MCL don't need to be repaired.
Wow.
So
More
I
important
guess
news:
it's just his
USC sophomore
LCL.
phenom Juju Watkins has agreed to a multi-year
I saw that.
contract.
Yeah, so
but
it's he just needs his LCL repaired.
but he's getting surgery though. That was guaranteed, right?
I have no idea.
I thought he was getting surgery no matter what.
Well, they were going in to look at it, I guess.
Oh. boys, we're going in. We're taking a look.
Yeah,
The
I
Chiefs
don't
just
know.
don't want to rule them out. They don't want to rule them out. But hey, Juju looked good last night, so maybe they don't even need him. But moving on here to your Colts playing in Tennessee against the Titans. I don't know what to believe for this game at all. This is definitely in my group of games that I just don't
I
know
have a
which way to go on.
I have a
Levis
couple.
is practicing this week. Allegedly, Callahan says if he's healthy, he's playing. If he's practicing, I'm assuming he's healthy, so I'm going to assume he's playing, especially with this line. I don't think it would be Colts minus just one if Levis was playing or wasn't playing, excuse me. But Tennessee has struggled to pass all year. Colts secondary is very, very bad right now. We saw Trevor Lawrence have his first successful game of the year against this Colts secondary. It looks like Taylor's going to play for the Colts. It looks like Anthony Richardson might play, but I know Jonathan Taylor said he was feeling good, so I definitely expect him to play. Flacco was great versus a bad Jags secondary, but Tennessee does currently sit as the best pass defense in football. Yes, they played Caleb Williams in his first game. Yes, they played a struggling Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. Yes, they played the Dolphins, but regardless, they do currently have the best pass defense in football, and their secondary does have some very, very good pieces, especially when you look at L'Jarius Sneed. Colts are going to have to run it very, very well to win this one. I think they definitely could do that. I'm torn on this game, but I think this is a good matchup for the Titans, and I like home dogs this week, so I'm going to take the Titans plus one.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth on this game. Anthony Richardson should be able to play in this game, but he has to go against right now the best pass defense in the NFL. I wrote down all those things too. And then Malik Willis as well. They played the Packers with no Jordan Love and
Yes,
Malik
yes, yes,
Willis.
yes, yes.
So the
Malik Willis
secondary
had his
has
best
been
game of his career too.
yeah,
So
the secondary has been great for him and the pass defense, but I don't think it's the best pass defense in the NFL. I think it's kind of just some matchups and a bye week. And like that brings into the fact that they're coming off the bye week, going to play the Colts. They get to stay home for it. Levis getting a revenge game on the Colts for not drafting him. First time we'll see Anthony Richardson versus Will Levis, hopefully. I completely expect Will Levis to go out there and throw for like 300 yards and look like the best quarterback of all time. And for that reason, I'm going to pick Titans plus one. I think this Colts secondary is just absolutely atrocious. I don't trust it at all. The Gus Bradley, I don't think he's a good DC at all right now. I think the games might have passed him, but he also doesn't have the players to do it. Colts are
yeah.
going to need Kenny Moore, any of Kenny Moore, Kwity Paye, Tyquan Lewis, just anybody from that secondary or the defensive line to return. We need any of them back because the defense just looks terrible right now. But with not knowing if any of them will play, I'm just going to lean Titans plus one.
And if Mason Rudolph plays, he's going to go for like 504 touchdowns or something
Yeah.
like that. He's going to look like Kirk Cousins against Tampa Bay. But speaking of Tampa Bay, moving on here to Bucks at Saints. Third week in a row that we've had a Bucks Saints Falcons matchup here. Love to see it. Saints definitely have shown some flaws since their dominant start. We talked about it here at the top or the mid of this pod. Saints secondary is good on paper, but they actually are 26th in passing yards allowed per game right now. New Orleans has been good at stopping the run. They've actually been better at stopping the run than the pass so far this year. I expect to see no Tampa Bay run game here. Although they have had sparks at times with Bucky Irving, I don't think they're going to be able to get a consistent run game going here. The Bucks secondary, I would say, is questionable at best. Derek Carr, I think, has a much better game than he did against the Chiefs. As much as we talked about how bad he is under pressure and he freaks out, the Bucks are not one of the teams that you're really worried about getting much pressure against. It's too close of a game to call, in my opinion, right now. The Saints just shouldn't really be 3-point dogs at home in the Superdome against a division rival, especially a division rival that, although the Bucks are a good team, they're not playing the Chiefs at home. I would understand them being a big dog against the Chiefs at home. I don't think that should be the case here. I do like the Bucks. I think the Bucks may win this one, but if the Saints are going to lay 3 points at home, I'm going to take them. So give me the Saints plus three.
Yeah, there are a couple games I might switch up on if the lines do move. Right now, there is a lot going on in Tampa Bay with their situation with just getting over a hurricane and now having to deal with another possibly disastrous hurricane. So they have a lot to play for. They need to get pressure on Derek Carr, like you said. We've seen how he's just crumbles under pressure sometimes. If they can't, the Saints offense could absolutely dominate this game and get going. Their offense has struggled in recent weeks, but yeah, they're seventh in the league in rushing yards per game. We saw them not be able to do that against the Chiefs. So if they can rush on this Buccaneers defense, that's what they're going to have to do. And defensively, they've been solid, giving up just 17.5 points per game. That's seventh in the NFL. They've been able to get takeaways 8 through 4 games, 6 interceptions. The Saints defense has to go to work on this Buccaneers team if they need to win. I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go with the Saints as underdogs at home, although I this is another tough one. I feel like there's a lot of tough matchups here with just some of these close spreads and just the matchups overall. But I like the Buccaneers team as a whole. I like the Buccaneers team throughout the season over this Saints team. But I think in this matchup, getting the Saints as underdogs, I'll take Saints plus 2.5.
Yeah, I completely agree. I like the Bucks as a whole team better than I do the Saints, but I think this is a good matchup for the Saints. You mentioned the Hurricane. Pretty crazy. I don't know if the NFL predicted to happen, but you have of the three Florida teams, you have Tampa Bay's in New Orleans, the Jags are in London, and Miami's on a bye. So there are no
Yeah,
games in Florida this week, which is
luckily for
honestly,
them, yeah.
I would assume the odds of that happening with three teams is probably not too likely to
Yeah, it's
not
got to
have
be
a
very
game in
low.
Florida. So good job, Goodell, I guess. But moving
Yeah.
on here to an AFC West matchup with the Chargers at Broncos. You probably already know the way I'm going in this game, but regardless, Denver defense has been amazing. We've really raved about them. This is a very interesting matchup. I honestly feel like, I mean, I mentioned it on the last pod, but I feel like I'm getting deja vu with the Broncos of just the peaks and valleys of the Broncos, and they're a scrappy team. And sometimes I'm looking at Sean Payton like, man, is he falling off? And sometimes I'm looking at Sean Payton like, wow, he's really getting the most out of this not too talented team. That is the point where I'm kind of at right now with them. Their secondary is getting all the credit, but their run defense has been really, really good too. They've been solid defensively and they've been solid blocking for Bo Nix. And when you have a rookie quarterback that can have a great defense and a great O line, the receivers and the running backs don't tend to matter as much if you have those two things that help you out so much. And that's what Bo Nix has had. The Chargers defense has, though, been great in all categories. They are riddled with injuries. Derwin James should be back from suspension. I think Joey Bosa will probably be back from injury, but he's a guy that if he's coming back from injury, you can flip a coin whether or not he makes it to the end of the game. Chargers being a 3-point favorite in Denver just is interesting to me. Their defensive success as a whole this season has been due to their pass rush, but as I said, Bo Nix doesn't get sacked very much. He gets the ball out. His O line blocks for him well, and you don't know game to game if you're going to be able to retain your pass rush duo. This is two great defenses that and two teams that rely on the run game. I love the under in this game. I know it's super low, but I love the under. I'm going to keep rolling with the Broncos until the wheels fall off here, and I'm going to take them +3 at home, even though them being 3-point dogs at home makes me think that Vegas thinks the Chargers are going to dominate this game. Even though that feels like a trap to me, I still like the Broncos at home +3.
Yeah, this is another tough matchup to pick. I can see the Broncos being able to slow down the Chargers' run game and really kind of just win the game in that aspect. But overall, I think the Chargers coming off 2 losses before the bye week. They get the bye week, they get an extra week to prepare for this game. Meanwhile, the Broncos have won 3 straight. They're kind of coming off of a high. I think it could be a little bit of a chance for a letdown for the Broncos and the Chargers having the extra week to prepare. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think I'm leaning Chargers. I just trust Herbert gets a week to get healthy, get that ankle feeling good, and I think that could be enough to put them over in an AFC West game. I don't know who I would like going farther in the season, but I'm gonna go with Chargers -3 in this one.
Okay, moving on here to Steelers at Raiders. Vegas is going through it right now, and I mean the Raiders when I say Vegas, not the sports books, but I think they struggle versus good defenses. I think that's really the problem for them. They can't score when they're playing against a good defense, and of course the Steelers are a good defense. Similar to the team I just spoke about, I put the Steelers and the Broncos in similar categories right now. They both have really good defenses. They both have veteran head coaches who know how to win, and they both have quarterbacks with question marks, although Fields has more answers than Knicks at this point. But I view these teams very similar, and Vegas just got ran by Denver. Vegas can't run the ball at all right now. Their run game will be abysmal in this game. We talked about it a few weeks ago how teams that are playing the Steelers, if you don't have a run game. Like if the Jets are playing the Steelers or the Raiders are playing the Steelers or the Bengals are playing the Steelers, those or the Buccaneers, those teams are going to struggle playing against the Steelers front seven. And I think that we see that definitely happen here with the Raiders. Vegas has been solid in the red zone this year, but the Steelers' red zone defense is very, very good. We even saw it against Dallas, who has a solid red zone offense. We saw them go 1 for 4 in the red zone last week against the Steelers' defense. I expect Fields to look good again, and I expect him to hold on to the ball as he's done all year this year. I think he only has 1 or 2 turnovers, which is super impressive from him. I'm more confused about Vegas as a whole, and I know what I'm getting with the Steelers week to week. I don't know what I'm getting with the Raiders week to week. So even though I've been kind of saying I'm taking the home dogs this week, I'm gonna rock with the Steelers -3 against the Raiders.
Yeah, the fact that the spread is so close almost makes me feel like it might be a trap overall. Um, Back-to-back week for the Steelers where they get to play kind of historical matchup between two storied franchises. We saw Steelers Cowboys last week, Steelers Raiders this week, going to Vegas, place where the Terrible Towels will be going. There'll be a lot of Steelers fans there. Justin Fields is expected to start, I see, but I had seen something yesterday that said it might be Russell Wilson. I'd expect it to be Justin Fields. The Steelers will be without three of their better pass rushers. Alex Highsmith's been out for a while. He's not going to go. DeMarvin Leal, who has been pretty solid for them, got injured Sunday with a neck injury. He's out. And Nick Herbig, who has been very good for them as well, he's out with a hamstring injury. So it's really just TJ Watt. And coming off the other side, it looks like it'll be Jeremiah Moon, who came off of IR last week. So Steelers really going through it there with their defensive edge injuries. Meanwhile, for the Raiders, they have no idea who will be playing QB yet. Will it be Minshew? Will it be O'Connell? We don't know. I don't expect either of them to really have success against the Steelers defense, even without the pass rush. They have so much going on at the quarterback position, the wide receiver position with drama. Antonio Pierce seemed like that would kind of be avoided if they decided to keep him, the trauma with Devontae Adams and the quarterback position, but that doesn't seem like it's the case. The offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy, doesn't seem to be able to keep everybody happy. We have seen Brock Bowers be very good for them so far this season. Jacoby Myers is solid. It's just I don't see them being able to cover 3 points against the Steelers team coming off of two losses, knowing that they have to win. And this is just a game that the Steelers win. So I'm going with Steelers -3, but it just feels like a trap.
I agree. It blows my mind that Luke Getsy is the OC
Yeah.
for the Raiders. But
That he just
moving
got a
on
job
here,
that fast.
yeah, quickly. Similar to Nagy. Nagy had to wait a year because he was quarterback,
Yeah.
but similar. Moving on here, Falcons at Panthers. After the Bears blew out Carolina, this is kind of an easy game for me to pick. Falcons pass offense has really shined in the past few weeks. Carolina just hasn't been good on defense, definitely not in the pass defense. Their run defense has been really bad too. I think Bijan will be able to get it going. One thing we haven't really seen from this Falcons team so far this year is a dominant game on the ground. They've had either great games passing or they haven't been good on offense. That's kind of what we've gotten from them so far. I look to see them having a more complete offensive game here. The Falcons secondary is very good, although they did give up a ton of points against a great passing offense in Tampa Bay last week. Their secondary is very good. Whoever it is between, I'm assuming Dalton will start, but if he goes out, Dalton Young, I don't think either of them will have much success in this one. The wide receiver core for Carolina isn't great to begin with, and they're really injured. Like they have Mingo as like wide receiver 1 or 2 right now, and they're just not in a good spot. I think they just struggle mightily in this game. They have ran it better with Chuba Hubbard the past few weeks. I could see them having some success there with the Falcons' run defense that isn't the greatest, but I don't think it's going to be enough success to actually keep them in this game. I think they get blown out again, and I got the Falcons -6.
Yeah, this is an interesting matchup with the Panthers. They haven't ran the ball great this season, but the Falcons have struggled to stop the run, giving up 148.4 yards per game against the run, which is fourth in the NFL. Falcons did play Thursday night, so they do have extra rest going into this game. Panthers, we saw how they started out solid with Andy Dalton, but it really has slowed down. And it is a 6 point spread in Carolina. I think the Falcons are going to win this game, but I think the Panthers being able to run the ball possibly in this game a little bit. I like the Falcons secondary a lot. I think maybe this Andy Dalton won't have a good game, but I think the running game will be able to keep them in this game a little bit. And maybe I'm overthinking it, but I think the Panthers coming off of a very bad week are going to just be eager to stay in the game, and I'm going to go with Panthers +6.
Panthers pick, rare Panthers pick.
Yeah, very rare.
But moving on here to Lions at Cowboys. Lions are coming off of a bye week and they have to right some wrongs in Dallas. Cowboys' lack of a run game is gonna kill them in this game. I should have, when I was talking about the teams that can't run the ball earlier, I should have mentioned the Cowboys. They're like at the top of that. The Lions' run defense is the best in the NFL in my opinion. I know statistically it's the Ravens. I still believe it's the Lions. The Lions have an improving secondary. I think they're going to perform really well off a bye. I think the bye is going to be huge for this team in general, especially with injuries. I expect Branch to play in this game. I expect Frank Ragnow to play in this game. We did get an update on Derek Barnes, kind of the inverse of the Rashee Rice situation. We thought Barnes would just be out a few weeks. We knew it was going to be multiple weeks, but we didn't think it was going to be that long. It now looks like he will be out for the year. So we're going to need to see Jack Campbell step up. We're going to need to see Rodrigo step up. We saw both of them step up on Monday Night Football against the Seahawks last or 2 weeks ago. I think both those guys will continue to step up, and now they had a full bye week to get ready for this game. Dallas's run defense has been pretty bad this year. If you can't run the ball or stop the run, I don't know how you beat the Detroit Lions. Honestly, I think the Lions are going to hold the pace throughout this game. Dallas has not looked phenomenal on offense or defense at any point in this year so far, outside of that first game against the Browns. Dallas is going to have to pass all over the Lions all game to have a shot, and the Lions have been able to hold teams when they need to. There's a chance, a very good chance, that Dak goes out there and throws for 400 yards and CD goes and gets 150 receiving yards. That's very, very possible. But the Lions have shown that they've been able to get stops when they need to, and their defense has not looked horrible in any game this year. Even against the Seahawks, they didn't look horrible. They got the stops when they needed to and gave the Lions a chance to win that game by double digits. So I think the Lions are going to continue to be able to hold teams when they need to. When the Lions succeed in the red zone, they're very, very hard to beat. We saw the one loss they have this year is because they couldn't score in the red zone. Dallas has the second worst red zone defense in the league at this point. I think the Lions are going to feast on that. If they get inside the 20, they're putting it in the end zone. Dallas is beat up and hasn't had a great pass rush. They're going to really struggle against this Lions O line that will be healthy when Frank comes back now. Goff is not going to have much time under pressure, and we already know the Lions are going to be able to run the ball all game. So I think the Lions easily put up like 35 in this game. Um, the line is 3. I know they're an away favorite at 3. I think the Lions could win this game by 15, 20 points, honestly. I'm very, very confident in Lions -3. 20 might
Yeah,
be a stretch, but I can see them win by 2 touchdowns.
yeah, that is a very, very large stretch. Lions can run the ball very well, and I think that's really the Achilles heel right now. The Cowboys, they can't stop the run, they can't run the ball. Cowboys are still going to be probably without Micah Parsons, definitely DeMarcus Lawrence, Dak Prescott. I think this game will be still close. I think Dak Prescott's going to be able to pass against this Lions secondary, which hasn't been great so far this year. They've given up 258.3 yards per game, sixth most in the NFL. I think Dak Prescott's going to be able to pass the ball, get it to CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson, and his guys. But I think the Lions being able to run the ball, I think they'll dominate time of possession. I think they'll be able to run and pass all over the Cowboys defense. They get 151.3 yards per game on the ground, and they will be able to pass the ball if they need to, use the play action with Jared Goff. I think the Lions -3 is a pretty easy one here. But I do think the Cowboys, I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think the Cowboys keep it close.
Okay, moving on here to Bengals at Giants. This is dude, how funny would it be if they had Brad Allen for the Cowboys Lions game?
Yeah.
But Bengals Giants here on Sunday Night Football. This is a pretty good matchup for the Giants, honestly. Bengals have to score like 30 plus a game to win games. We already talked about it. It's going to be very, very tough to do that against a good Giants defense here. Daniel Jones is getting hot for the Giants, and anyone can score against the Bengals. I think mainstream media is overlooking the Giants a little bit. I think they're coming around on teams like the Broncos, and they're coming around on Army Navy possibly playing 2 games in a row, but they haven't fully come around on the Giants yet. I think after this game they will. I think the Giants are going to put on a show in prime time. Anyone can score in this Bengals defense. I think Daniel Jones has another great game. He's been getting hot. Their offense has been rolling, running through the run game. Since he has the third worst run defense in football right now, they're going to run all over this team, whether it's Tracy or Singletary or Daniel Jones on keepers. They're going to run all over this Cincy defense. Giants at home as such big dogs, just I mean, such big dogs. The fact that they're at home as more than a field goal of a dog just doesn't make much sense to me. I could see the Bengals somehow squeezing out a late win on a McPherson redemption field goal, but this is a really, really bad matchup for them, and they definitely should not be 3.5 point favorites on the road against the Giants. So I'm easily taking the Giants plus 3.5 here. I love the Giants. I hate the Bengals, so it's easy for me.
Yeah, I've been very optimistic on the Bengals. 1-4 record. Their offense has still been elite. Um, they're fourth in the league in points per game at 28 points per game. They can't run the football, which has been their Achilles heel, and we've talked about that a lot. They can pass the ball great, can't run the ball. That worries me for this matchup. Daniel Jones has started to figure it out a little bit, and he's going against another defense that hasn't been good. Last week he dominated with Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton. They should hopefully get Malik Neighbors back, and that'll just help this offense that much more. Dexter Lawrence defensively for him has been a monster. He had 3 sacks last week against the Seahawks. I think he's going to continue that. I think he's going to get in Joe Burrow's face a lot and just maybe slow him down enough. I think this game might almost be a shootout, both teams scoring a lot. The Giants defense has been solid. Maybe they can slow down the Bengals. They're 12th in total yards allowed per game at 316, 15th in passing yards at 200th, 12th in rush defense. So they're just in the like maybe the second tier, third tier. They're still a solid defense, only giving up 20.8 points per game. The Bengals offense was great last week against the Ravens, but the Ravens have been very bad against the pass, which is the Bengals' strength. I think the Giants maybe win, or at least I think the Giants cover plus 3.5. We've been very we've been quick to kind of support the Giants. Overall, Vegas doesn't seem to agree, but I'm going Giants plus 3.5. And Vegas is or the odds, yeah, 77% of people are on Bengals minus 3.5 right now. So that makes me feel
Really?
good. That makes me feel good. I'm glad to be in the 23% there.
Yeah, for sure. Um, because that tells me that that's why they're favorites is because people love Joe Burrow and people love Jamar Chase. I get it, but
Yeah.
it is. I mean, last time I tried to go against the hype though, it didn't work out well for me. But moving on here to Bills at Jets, the final game Monday Night Football. We can now talk about it. Robert Salah has been fired in
Oh,
New York.
breaking news, breaking news.
What?
This could potentially change a pick. I don't know, but Drake May is starting for the New England Patriots this week.
I like -7 even more now for the Texans.
Yeah, me too.
But unless the line could change, but um, Bills at Jets. Yeah, Salah's been fired. I think they're gonna be. I personally disagree with him being fired,
I agree.
and I definitely disagree with him being fired and Nathaniel Hackett not being fired. I get why they didn't because they have their quarterback there, but I saw some memes being like they need to go like RFK as head
Head
coach,
coach, yeah.
Alex Jones at DC. but yeah, despite some struggles, the Jets defense has been as good as expected. They're second in passing yards given up per game. They've been really solid. This is 2 weeks in a row now for Josh Allen just struggling, and he has a brutal matchup here against this Jets defense. Jets have been mid versus the run game. I think that's a big opportunity for the Bills. They need to be able to consistently get the ball to James Cook and have him break some runs. That is how you win this game if you're a Bills fan. Buffalo has been really bad against the pass, but they've been worse against the run. This could be the game that the Jets finally figure out a run game. Another team I could put in that category that can't run the ball. The Jets will probably be able to figure out a run game in this one. This is the worst run defense they played yet by far, so this is their biggest opportunity. Jets are dogs at home because of a coach firing. I personally feel. I think they rally around that. I think they find a way to win this game. I'm gonna take them at +2. I think the Bills fall 3-3.
Yeah, we've seen the Bills struggle to play the Jets in New York. We saw it last year in week 1. They lost that game. Josh Allen's coming off of one of the worst games of his career. It's a chance for him to bounce back. He has been very poor on the road so far this year, 1-2, only about 170 total yards of offense is what he's averaging. But with everything going on with the Jets right now, I can see them rallying around the interim head coach. We see that all the time. But with how this seems to be handled, I almost don't see that happening. Robert Saleh, I mean, I don't know what the issue that would be as much with them because their defense has been perfectly fine. Their defense is second fewest yards per game in the NFL, fifth fewest points per game in the NFL. Their defense has been good, great. It's the offense that has been the issue, and he's the head coach. I don't know what his biggest issue would be in the offense. I feel like that would still be more Hackett. This seems to just be coming from the higher ups in the New York organization, whether maybe Rodgers asked for this. That wouldn't shock me, but I don't know. It doesn't make sense. And I've been scrolling Twitter a little bit here, and it just, oh, wow. Okay, well, I didn't see this tweet, but Woody Johnson, the owner, said this was his decision alone for this
Yeah,
firing,
I
which
saw that. Yeah.
when an owner steps in, that just makes. Oh, wait, no, Joe Douglas said this was his decision alone. The GM said it was his decision alone. Okay,
Mm,
not the
okay.
owner. He said he consulted
Pepper
him.
would have gotten excited.
Yeah, the way I read that was wrong. I'm sorry, but
It's okay,
still
man.
makes no sense. Woody Johnson said he spoke to Aaron Rodgers on Monday night, but it wasn't about Robert Saleh. Johnson said Rodgers had no input on the decision made, so I guess it wasn't Rodgers. It's just I don't understand the decision at all then by Joe Douglas to make that move. You'd think he would go for the offensive coordinator with considering he struggled, but it just makes no sense to me. And on top of that, they said that he was forcibly removed from
Oh
the
yeah, I saw that. That was crazy. By
he was
security.
but yeah, forcibly removed by security to from the team offices. Didn't get a chance to say goodbye to the team at all, or at least tell the team himself. I think that's just ridiculous to do. That's
Adam Gase did not get that.
yeah. He seemed to be. He's probably pissed off. I would be pissed off too. I mean, what's the record right now? Are they 2-3 or 3-2?
2-3.
2-3. I mean, you're not out of it yet. It's early in the season. You've had some rough matchups. Makes no sense to me. I'm just. It's almost like a personal grudge. This is justice for Adam Saleh. So, Adam Saleh, Robert Saleh.
Yeah, bad. I don't like that at all. You make him go all the way to fucking London, play a team that's 4-0, and then he doesn't beat that team that's 4-0 when your quarterback gets hurt. And honestly, they almost beat him too. Towards the end of that game, they had a really good chance to win.
Their
Yeah.
defense kept him in the game, which is what he coaches.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me, but I think they rally around it.
I
Justice
think
for
they,
him. And he's gonna get a job.
yeah.
So
I'm do it.
Colts are
Chris
out.
Ballard, please fire Gus Bradley right now and go and get him.
That would be nice.
Please, right
I don't know if
now.
we'll go to a team this season,
I don't think he
but I
will,
think
but
beginning of next year
that'd make me so
we'll for
happy.
sure be on a team. Guaranteed, yeah.
Him and
But
Steichen could cook.
they could. You ready to move on to best bets here? You lead us off this week.
I lead us off this week. I'm going to go with the one that I said I was most confident in yesterday. Bears -2.5 versus the Jags. The Bears got me a win last week, and I don't know if we mentioned it, but we went 6-0 in best bets.
Yeah, that's crazy.
6-0 last week. Um, After a little rough going for a while, we seem to have maybe have figured it out. I'm going Bears -2.5. I think they're going to destroy this Jags team. I think they're going to be able to slow down Trevor Lawrence with their good secondary. And I think Caleb Williams has a chance to really shine against this Jags secondary, which has not been great so far this year.
Yeah, me too. Also said it my most confident bet of the week. I'm taking the Lions -3. This line is gonna move. I bet this line is like 3.5, 4 by the time we get to the game on Sunday. It's at 3 solid right now. Regardless of what it gets to, I like it. I think the Lions won't by double digits, so give me the Lions.
For my second best bet, I'm going to bet. I mean, it's a big spread. He could still win the game without covering the spread. But Lamar Jackson against the NFC -6.5. I think they're going to be able to run the ball very well against this Commanders defense, which has struggled at most points. And if they're not playing the Browns, they have their own thing going on. So Ravens -6.5. I think this is a chance for them again to prove that they are this elite football team. Their defense just needs to slow down Jalen Daniels enough. Jaden Daniels enough.
Okay, moving on here to my second best bet. I'm gonna go with the under 49.5 in Cardinals Packers. I think the Cardinals are really gonna struggle to score in this one. They're gonna struggle to run the ball because of how great the Packers front has been, and the Packers secondary. I think they'll have Jair. I think they'll be in a much better spot. And for the Packers, I think they do figure it out a little bit more on offense. But like I said, I think they play through the run to figure that out, which just drains more clock. And I think this is kind of a high over under. So take the under 49.5 in Cardinals Packers.
For my third best bet of the week, I think, hmm, I almost, I almost hear a voice telling me Giants +3.5.
Take it. Makes my job easier here if you do.
I think I hear a voice saying Giants plus 3.5. But I have been successful with the over/under bets in in recent weeks. I think I've won back-to-back over/under bets. But
I have Giants and an under, so I'm just if you pick one of them, I have an easy job to just take the other.
yeah, I'll let you pick then.
I don't want to pick. I,
No, I'll go
actually,
with
I'm probably not taking the Giants, so you can pick.
yeah. I'll stick with it. I'll go Giants plus 3.5. I think they have a good matchup here against the Bengals. There's a lot of people flocking towards the Bengals. Getting them at 3.5 point underdogs at home. They've looked like a better team than the Bengals so far this season. I'll go with Giants plus 3.5.
Okay, my final one here. Very, very low under. I'm gonna keep rocking with it. Give me the under 35.5 in Chargers
I
Broncos. I
was
think it's
looking
gonna
at
be
that.
an ugly defensive run game. Two great defenses, two teams that are better at running than they are at passing. I think this game flies by. We're gonna have a ton of punts, and it seems like these super low unders have been going under consistently on the year. So I'm going to confidently take the under 35.5 in that game.
That was actually the other one I was deciding between
Oh
two.
wow, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
We had the last two to sign. But regardless, that is it for this episode of the Engage A podcast. We will be back on Monday recapping this whole slate of games for. Oh, I just saw a line move live. That was crazy. For week 6 of the NFL season, we're going to go game by game. We'll talk about every game but Sunday night and Monday night. And then a week from today, we'll recap Sunday night, Monday night, recap the past week in college football, and then get you ready for week 7 of the NFL season. So, thank you everybody for watching. If you made it this far, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the links in our description for Spotify, TikTok, social media, and all that good stuff. And we'll see everybody in the next one.